Now, you were there when the Kliq was all together, obviously. Memories of the Kliq together.
The Kliq. Yeah, let's talk about the Kliq. That's cool. I was the one who named the Kliq the Kliq. No one ever fucking knows that. It was just something I popped out there one day. I think I was traveling with Bob Holly and maybe Pierre. Who else? Maybe this, with Billy Gunn and those guys. And I started calling them the Kliq, and it stuck.
Right.
It started out with us just knowing it, and that's how it spilled over. And then, but yeah, I gave them that stupid little name, and so it stuck with them.
Did a lot of the other guys not like them as well, as far as
yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, it's if you go through the history of this whole thing, yeah, there's a lot of people that didn't like them. I mean, but look at all the shit that they got away with, and of course, Vince allowed it to happen. So that's why I knew that was not a company. I knew that's why it was a good thing for me to get out of there, because like I said, my base was more in Atlanta, and that's where I wanted to be. So for me to get out of there. It was a good thing for me to get out of there, but yeah, they got away with a lot of shit.
Were you there when they went on strike allegedly?
Yeah. Let me check. What's the exact date on that? I can't recall exactly. I think that supposedly they went on strike or some bullshit.
And Vince had to come to the town.
Yeah, I might have been on they were running 2 shows, the A and the B town, at the time, and I was working. Semi-main or main event on a lot of those B-town shows, working with Undertaker casket matches all around the loop. And those guys were in different towns. It went back and forth. We were so busy back then. I mean, we were working 280 days. So I don't know where I was at when they supposedly went on strike, just because they bitched and moaned about stuff. So and Vince didn't have anything else to go with at the time.
Right.
I mean, he had Yoko and he had Bret. But the rest of it, so maybe he listened to him. I don't know exactly.
Did you get along with Kevin at all, or?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but he's just like the rest of them. He had his own agenda. I'm sure he was just business to me to my face, but behind my back, definitely listening to Shawn, and trying to do whatever he could to put himself in the position. I mean, I could think of the times when we were in Europe and stuff, and like Chief Jay Strongbow was one of the agents, and having to be on those loops for, because I went 7-8 times to Europe in 1 year, and just every night listening to Strongbow, and there was Nash, and there was Shawn, and they're listening to the Chief and listening to all their bullshit. And Chief's telling them, "Oh, way to go, Big D! You're having great matches every night." They're stinking up the fucking place, but that's what. That was Chief's job, is to fluff them up a little bit and then call Vince and back and tell them, "Oh, they're doing great, when really it sucked."
Right.
But, it's the politics of the business.
Would you consider them pretty much backstabbers in a way?
You know what? I think you've got to be friends with someone for them really to be a backstabber.
Right.
So we were never friends, so I would say no to that question.
Gotcha.
But did I give a shit about any of them? No, not at all.
Did you ever witness any of their antics outside the ring as far as their crazy behaviors with Scott and Kevin? Or?
Really not with Nash a whole lot, but Scott Hall, of course, pilled up out of his mind, staggering and walking up down the hotel lobbies, picking up ugly rats. Just, any stupid. And here this guy was supposedly a family man, married, and he's on the road being a piece of shit. And then X-Pac, same thing. ODing on pills all the time, waking up with his fucking eyebrows shaved, which was hilarious. I mean, if you look at some of his old promos, you'll see.
The Nasty Boys did that, right, Tom?
Actually, it was Smoking Guns.
Oh, okay.
So maybe he got it a couple times,
right.
But from when I was there, the Smoking Guns got him, which was hilarious because the dumbass had photo shoot the next day or so, and there he is with no eyebrows. Fucking hilarious. So I'm sure those photos are still out there somewhere.
You got to work him too, 1, 2, 3 Kid. What are your memories of working with him in the ring?
Working wise, it's a little skinny cruiserweight, with a really bad face. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, he's there to bounce around and bump around for me. Could he work? Yeah, he could work, but there's so many other negative things about him that I can't really say. I can't say anything good about the guy. There's a little ribbing that goes on, but that's just.
What were some of the ribs that some of the guys did to you?
What are some of the ribs?
Yeah, what are some of the
Oh, just little bullshit, nothing major, putting my shoes in the water, or locking up my bag, or some little bullshit.
Kurt Hennig?
No, I don't know. Probably the 1, 2, 3 kid. I think, as a matter of fact, one night I remember Scott Hall, and this is when Kid was carrying their bags around and kissing their ass. I think he locked up my bag one night in Albany, New York, and I just wasn't really in the mood for it, and him and Scott Hall both there. And I was ready to kick both their fucking asses, man. I had enough. I'd already snapped. It'd been a long tour. And I told them both, I said, I'll beat your fucking ass right now, both of you. Because I fucking hated both of them, and they're both pieces of shit. And I'll tell them this day. You know, guys, there's a time and place for ribbing and joking, and that's cool. But, you know, both of those guys are really scummy type people. I mean, if you look at them both now, I mean, they're both addicted. They're in and out of rehab. You see everything, man. Just as Hall was like a wife beater and just all kind. I mean, he had heat with the Steiners. He had heat with fucking everybody. So just neither one of those. Just not a good person. Either one of them, man. Shawn, couldn't stand him. Still don't like him. He's another guy that's a fucking joke. I know he's there, all the cruiserweights around the world. That's their big hero, man. But if they knew the real Shawn Michaels.
What is the real Shawn Michaels?
Oh man, just a piece of shit. I mean, he could fucking act like he's a Christian and he's turned his life around and all this stuff. But man, he was just an asshole. You know, just a bad person. And of course, I'm sure Vince and Pat both probably liked seeing him in the shower and him pose for a Playgirl or whatever he did. So that was great for them, you know. So they probably kept him around for other reasons than just besides his work. But yeah, you know, just not good. And the biggest ribs on him because he ended up marrying one of the Nitro girls, which is too fucking funny because she'd made her rounds around the company and then she ends up going up there and marrying him. And now they got a kid together, so that's even better.
Right.
So the big rib is on him.
But, you know, you mentioned the Kliq earlier. When I went up there, my guard was completely down because Shawn Michaels and I especially, 5.5 years before that, me, Shawn, Marty, and Dustin Rhodes, we were like the four amigos. Where one of us was, we all four were. You know, we were inseparable on the road. We traveled together, and you know how that goes when you're on the road back then together. Very good friends, very close. And Razor had traveled with me and Johnny in WCW when we were there, and you know, rarely had money to pitch in for the rental car, for gas. You know, we would always take care of it, and you know, so I go up there. You know, to me, you were my friend the last time we spoke 15, 12 years ago, whatever it's been, and you're my friend today. And 5 years from now, if something's turned around, you know, no problem. I mean, that's the way I am. And so I went up there, my guard completely dropped, and very quickly started realizing that this faction was against me. And there was an incident that happened in Montreal at the Molson Center. What's his name, Carl Ouellet.
Yeah.
Had worked, the house was way down, had been down for several months. And he had pulled in a lot of local favors, done a lot of local promotion, and had the house way up, and they had him working on top with Kevin Nash in the main event. And it was one of the first days I was on the road. And I walked down, remember how you walk down the ramp, and there were two dressing rooms on the left. At the bottom is where the Zamboni machine was, and the Canadians dressed on the other side of that. As I went to walk into one of those rooms, Shawn grabbed me by the shirt and said, no, you dress with us. And so I followed them down into the room. And as I'm getting dressed, right in front of me, Kevin asked Shawn what he should do. That Vince wanted a hot finish and they could do a comeback. And Shawn got up in his face and he said, no, fuck that, you're the champion. When you worked with the champion, did you put the champion over clean? He said, well, yeah, but. He said, no, but. He said, you're the champion, that motherfucker should put you over clean. Jackknife, 1, 2, 3. So he turns to walk out, and as he does, Carlton's walking in. And this is happening 4 feet in front of me.
Right.
Shawn does this turnaround and comes up behind Carl, standing right behind Carl's blind in one eye.
Right.
Standing right behind Carl, and he's pantomiming behind Carl's head, jackknife, 1, 2, 3. And Kevin finally reluctantly says that, and Carl says, no, we can't do that. It's kind of a finish, and it's a comeback. And he leaves, and that night at the hotel we were staying at the Days Inn, they called me down into the room, as they were walking in, me and PJ were, Just Incredible were in the very first room right off the front lobby. And they were walking in behind us. They said, hey, we're going to be down in the room getting pizza and beer. We want to talk to you. So I went down and they asked me, what I thought about what happened in the building. And I said, well, it makes sense. Can't do a comeback if you do a clean finish. And, I want to say it was Shawn said, see, I told you, Shane knows the business. And I thought that's not how we do things here. We should, you put the champion over clean here. And then there was all kind of, bad comments being thrown around about Carl. And then one of them said, let's call Vince and have him starve him for the next 3 years. It disgusted me. And it wasn't long after that the Kliq set its sights on me, and I was only too happy to leave. Like I said, after the day of the vignettes and the promos, I knew that it wasn't the place for my type of character, and that I wasn't going to be allowed to unleash what I could unleash as a heel. So, I was only too happy to leave and go back to ECW.
Was the Kliq. I told you that everything is strength in numbers, and they had the numbers. You had Diesel, you had Michaels, Helmsley, or Triple H, whatever the hell his, and then you had this number of these Scott Hall and all this group of guys that were actually telling Vince McMahon what to do. And Vince was feeding it. And you could even, when Vince did his promo, and he was cutting a promo, and there's loyalty, and they quit 2 days later and went over there. I mean, it's just that Kliq was just phenomenal. It was terrible time.
Now, how did you feel towards them individually?
Well, you know what? It wasn't like I hated it. It just was a bad business move. It was bad because it hurt a lot of people. And to them, I think it became like a joke because they had control. So I was like, okay, let's fuck with this guy now. Okay, well, we got him out. Now let's go to this guy and let's ruin his life and let's get him fired. Okay, now let's go to this guy, and that's what they did. They just toyed with people's emotions and toyed with people's livelihood. They actually were, you're taking bread off another man's table. Some of these guys had families and kids, and to them it was a big joke, and that's what I didn't like about the Kliq. Was the fact that they would just manipulate and control and dominate and hire and fire whoever they wanted, and it sucked.
Now, what problems did you see personally with that they had with Shane Douglas and Candido and Tammy?
Well, Shane Douglas was just, when Troy came up, it was in Europe. He was working with Scott Hall. And there again, it was just a guy that they didn't want to deal with. It was a guy that they wanted to destroy. Maybe he said something, or they just didn't like him, and they went after him. And you know what? They made him hate They made it hate him. They made Shane hate it. I mean, he hated it up there because he's working with guys that would mess spots up, and then if it wasn't Troy's fault, it became Troy's fault. Well, this guy's hard to work with, it was such baby bullshit, and it was sick to watch, and then the thing with Tammy and Candido, and where supposedly Shawn was hitting on Tammy, and Chris was just in so much love with this woman, I mean, geez, it was driving him crazy, We actually found, I wouldn't say a suicide note, but, we found a note in Chris's bag that was pretty heavy, and, Chris was depressed, man, and the depression was because of the Kliq, and then they were loving it. They were thriving on it. They were like, okay, let's see if we can make this kid kill himself, and it's just terrible, and that's what I don't like about it, and, I just spoke my mind, and then, before they could, screw me up, I did the match with LT, and then after the LT match, that was it. That I just got out before they got, tried to destroy me, but, and they were all pissed about that too, Michaels and Diesel, and well, they were making it very clear to me that they were the main event. And you're the main event. I said, but I'm the event. I'm wrestling LT. You're wrestling Diesel. But that was the problem with that. But now, as you get older and you go on, you know, I have no animosity or no, you know, I just didn't like what they were doing at the time, and I'm not one of them people just to sit there and keep my mouth shut, you know, and just not say nothing, you know, because I thought Chris was very vulnerable. Candido was vulnerable, man, and I thought he was gonna, you know, hurt himself or hurt or kill one of them assholes. And you know what? I tried to stop it. Once I got done with the LT match, I just wanted to get so far away from there, you know. And I mean, you know, it was ridiculous. Yeah, guys like Triple H carrying Diesel's and Scott Hall's bags. And, it was a joke, man. I mean, you know, look at him now. I mean, he's done really well, you know. I mean, he's come a long way. He's become a hell of a talent. He was a hell of a talent back then there. But I remember when you were carrying their bags, you little brown-nosed puss.
Literally a cancer in the dressing room, all of them. And I think they're all, I don't doubt that Shawn Michaels is sorry for a lot of that kind of behavior. Kevin Nash was a great wrestler and a good guy, but I don't think he can be that proud of that association. It was a cancerous environment in the dressing room with those guys, and they certainly did more negative than positive harm to the business. Scott Hall, all you have to do is look at him. He's a train wreck with his own life, and he was a malcontent, or a guy that, you know, when you were close to him long enough, you started to feel the same way he did. You just felt so self-destructive and unhappy with your life and your job and everything. He was a guy that was infectious with his bad sort of moods and bad unhappiness in his own life that would spread to all the other wrestlers. And, you know, I'm glad I'm not remembered for that kind of stuff. I remembered, I think if you talk to different wrestlers from that era, the Savio Vegas and the, those kind of wrestlers that were on my cards, they're all pretty proud of how I conducted myself and how I related to them and how I may have been the top guy, but I didn't act like a superstar, not to my friends and not to my peers.
I don't think he was a flop. I don't think he did nearly as well as he should have. I think part of the problem was Shawn Michaels. Leon was he's a big, rough, mean, former pro football player, and he was a stiff, hard-hitting guy, and he was but he was he was a big teddy bear also personally. And you could hurt his feelings just like that. And Shawn Michaels is used to everybody, or was used to everybody catering to him, and also was used to people working with him a lot lighter. And I remember one time it was in fucking Tulsa. It was at a house show in Tulsa. There, Leon's got him by the hand and he's fucking peppered him right, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden I see Shawn gets out of it and grabs some kind of hold and there's a conversation. I'm like, what the fuck? And then they go on and they go to the finish a couple minutes later and Leon rolls. Of course, Leon lost. It's another thing, a big monster. Frankenstein kicked a few villagers' asses first to get over. Leon rolls out and he's crying. He said, Shawn Michaels told me if I yanked his hair that way, that'd be my job, and he's going to get me fired. And then at SummerSlam 96, go back and watch the fucking tape. Some way or another, Shawn's going to come off the top with a fucking elbow, and Leon's supposed to move, and Leon don't move. And Shawn changes gear in midair and fucking lands right next to him and screams, move! Kicks him. Move, asshole, or dumb shit, or whatever. Shawn Michaels, he was unprofessional. He was always on fucking pills or whatever. And by the way, Shawn, fuck you too. The way you fucking talked to me, the way you talked to Jose Lothario that got you in the business, for the way that you fucking got with your little clique and fucking exposed the business in Madison Square Garden and kowtowed, and everybody had to kowtow to you, and you're whining and you lost your smile and you didn't want to do jobs, and wherever you were pilled up doing whatever the fuck you were doing, you were a fucking asshole and a prick. And if you found God, that's generally because I've noticed people in this business that find God do so when everybody else hates them so bad they won't speak to them. When mortals won't speak to you, you find a higher power. But anyway, between all this stuff going, Shawn didn't want to work with Leon. He didn't want to take the fucking ass kicking. He came with working with Leon. They didn't book Leon. Vince wanted to change his name to the Mastodon. I said, it's fucking Vader. He was a WCW World Champion. Everybody in the world knows who he is. Well, we can trademark it. He's a big mastodon. Fuck! So Leon, he just didn't fit. The guy, the fucking guys that he was supposed to work with didn't get him over. Leon was a high maintenance individual also, and that didn't help him. It just didn't fucking work.
Oh yeah, I thought that Shawn knows what I thought of him. I thought he was a complete jerk. I thought that Diesel was a tall guy that didn't know how to do anything, and Razor was a very talented stoop. I mean, he was very talented, but he just, when he come in, he was such a nice guy, and he turned so quick. And then Helmsley was one of them. And the day they did the Kliq in the Madison Square Gardens, the four of them after the match did the Kliq thing on four corners.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I wasn't there. I was not there. But I'd heard about it, and the TV was the next day. It was a Tuesday, and the Gardens was Monday, that particular show. Helmsley come up to me. He told me what had happened. I'd already heard, and he says, "I think I screwed up." I said, "You sure did." I said, "Do you know?" I said, "You got I can't even think of the toothpick. The guy with the toothpick in his mouth.
Razor Ramon.
Yeah, his real name though.
Oh, Scott Hall.
Scott Hall." I said, "You got Scott Hall and Diesel are going to the WCW. They're leaving. So there's no issue there." I said, "And Shawn Michaels just became the champion. So who's going to take all the heat?" He
Yeah,
says,
so true.
"I guess I am." I said, "You're exactly right." He says, "How do I handle that?" I said, "You keep your mouth shut and just take it. It'll blow away. It'll blow over." And it did. But yeah, he was on that deal. He would have been the short end of the stick.
Yep, definitely. Was it difficult dealing with the Kliq, being an agent at that time?
Well, basically, I had no respect for them, talent-wise, none at all. So I think they might have had difficulty with me too. It's a two-way street. They were, the kayfabe was gone. Shawn Michaels had been beat up in a bar in Utica. Bill Watts is a good friend of mine that was a promoter in Oklahoma, and if a guy got in a fight, that's fine as long as he won, but if he got beat up, hell, they'd fire him. We had a guy that got beat up that was a champion.
And yes, Shawn has changed, but back in the day, being brand new, I really didn't know about all the diplomacy that truly happens behind the closed doors. So the plans were for me to have the belt, but Shawn went around with his posse at that time, and I'll leave it at that because you know who that was, and they were spreading rumors that I was getting a bad attitude, and ever how that was done. But there's one thing that the office, like they do today, they want to make sure that you have the right kind of attitude, so when you move into that position that you can do business when you have that belt. So Shawn knew that if I got my hand on that belt with that undefeated streak and everything that was going on, I'd have had that belt for a while. So these are the true facts, because this is who it came from, the two names I just told you. They knew the sting would be out of it, and I wouldn't go chase Shawn Michaels, down in the locker room going, "I can't believe you." But that's the facts. That's actually what happened. So it was actually for me to win the belt at WrestleMania, but things got turned around because of hearsay.
You know what? I'm gonna say yes and no to that. Yes, I'm pretty good friends with all those guys. Shawn, Kevin, Scott. So I wasn't. I didn't walk around and from town to town, dressing room, or radio interview or magazine interview, and never talk about it. No, I wasn't. I don't. No, guys, I just don't. That's something else I don't take a lot of weight in, is overexposed stories like that right there, the Kliq. Let's see how we can put this. I think, in our business, and because of the internet and gossip and all that, things like that get blown way out of proportion. And I didn't want to go into this, make this long and silly or draw it out and boring, but I guess to answer your question, no, I never considered myself part of the Kliq. I considered myself friends with everyone that was in the Kliq.
Shawn's a great worker, and Shawn said some things about me, and I said something about, when I heard that, I said something about him, and that I don't remember anything. It's so stupid now,
Right.
It's silly.
Do you remember what he said, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be evasive at all. It's so silly that, and we made up in past history that, it was just, I think I hung out with Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and and then I started traveling some with Davey Boy.
Right.
And Davey Boy, somewhere out of that, I don't know how or why, there was friction, and my sense of humor, once again, I called them the Kliq, because they'd sit Vince's off with their feet up on this thing, and the big guys waiting to figure out whether they're going to keep a job there, feed their families. They'd all sit there for 3 hours joking around with Vince when a guy wanted to. Vince might still work here, so I nicknamed them with Kliq.
Right.
And Shawn heard that, and then he said about me. And
But
then,
you're the actual guy who actually named him the Kliq?
yeah,
Oh, wow.
that was my saying, which turned out to be a good nickname for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And they actually, and then the way it turned out, they joke about it now too, because with me about it.
Right.
You give us their name, so there's nothing really. It's so silly now. It's not really. There's nothing big or worth even, coming to blows over, anything like that. There was nothing like that intense. You know what I mean? Really wasn't.
When was the first time that you noticed or thought to yourself that Vince was losing control to the Kliq?
Well, when they were all going in and having a meeting, and they were all going to, production meetings and all, it just, Vince for somehow let the talent influence him in his decision, and it just really hurt the company really bad, and they got away from it, Vince goes, when Diesel and Razor and Shawn and everybody, Vince comes out and says, it's nice to know that there's still some loyalty, and a week later,
Yeah.
So he should have been more loyal to the guys like me that were telling him it's wrong. You're listening to these guys, they're tearing the morale up, and they're stepping on everything. I mean, they were going up to like the Bushwhackers, even though they suck.
Yeah.
Come on, they're all timers. They're going to be out of business a few years. Leave them alone.
Respect.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Shawn would go up to him and tell him, you suck, you're no good,
Yeah.
and the twins, the two brothers,
Yeah.
they had him by the throat in the garden, choked him out.
The Bruise Brothers.
Bruise Brothers, man.
Yeah.
And Shawn getting his ass kicked in Syracuse. This guy's a jerk, man.
Yeah.
A rich jerk. He's a rich kid. He's got a lot of money. He's a very popular guy, and he gets to call the shots now.
Yeah.
Because he don't need to work.
Yeah. And Vince needs him, obviously, at this point.
Of course, man. He's got all that merchandise.
Yeah.
So, you're stuck with $50 million worth of merchandise. Well, shit, we need him back.
Yeah. You teamed with Nash at King of the Ring, and you wrestled him often and here and there. Was there ever any tension in your matches with any of the Kliq members?
Not with Kevin.
No.
Kevin was really cool because Kevin was always, when he was away from the Kliq, he was Kevin. But when he was with the Kliq, he changed.
That's what everybody says.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen it, and that's and even today, Kevin away from them is Kevin, and he's Big Daddy cool. He's a really cool guy. Around the Kliq, he just, he's influenced by other people and other influences, and he changes. Scott Hall. He's the type of guy that would burn the candle on both ends. Like me and you would be hanging out, and he'd come over and say, "Oh man, Shawn Michaels and Diesel, they're fucking such a pain in the ass," And he'd spill the beans to us, and then, some of the guys would be stupid enough to say, "Yeah, you're right. He's a jerk," and then he'd go back and say, "You should hear what this guy's talking about." So that's Razor's deal, and that he, besides being a drug addict and getting so fucked up all the time, you know, he would jump back and forth, and the kid too. The kid was a little backstabber.
Was he?
Yeah, you know, that's Razor, man, and you know that's why we had that little complication in Florida, because, you know, there's heat between Shane, heat between Chris Candido and me, with him, because he was part of the Kliq, and the three of us lost our jobs and our positions because of him and his Kliq.
Yeah. Was there ever any major blow-ups in the locker room with you and the Kliq?
They would have got their ass kicked. So I'd have beat the shit out of all three of them. And at one time, they all wanted to jump me, and it was like, all right, you go first. You know, so, you know, because the bottom line, I'd kick all three of their asses. I mean, if they want to really get down, they want to shoot, they'd be in big fucking trouble.
Yeah. Did you ever go to Vince during any of this?
Yeah, I did. And Vince said, no, there's no Kliq at Dawn. Vince refused to acknowledge it at all.
Yeah.
Which right there led me to believe that it was time to get out, and that they were definitely influencing him, and it just, all the heat went on me. I was bad for morale, you know. So it's all right. Goodbye.
Yeah. Is that what led to you leaving?
That was it.
Yeah. Wow. Did you leave on good terms with Vince, or?
Yeah, very good terms. You know, I had a year left on my contract, and you know, he just said, look, you know, no pay-per-views, and do anything you want.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it.
Kevin, another one. You know, the thing about Kevin is I've always found, and everybody's agreed with me universally about this, and most people have mentioned it to me. Kevin, away from the Kliq, is as personable, professional, easygoing of a guy as there is. I saw him one night in Montreal literally be almost bullied into becoming an asshole on that particular night. Montreal had been down for 6 to 8 months, and Carl Oulet had worked his butt off to bring the house up, and pulled in a bunch of favors and really scrambled his ass around Montreal. And the house was up about $60,000. And Vince wanted them to do some kind of a hot finish to come back the next month for, and hopefully bring the house up even more. And Shawn had walked into the room, Michaels, and said to him, what are you going to do with him tonight? And he said, well, Vince wants some kind of a hot finish. And so I'm thinking, and then Shawn cut him off. He goes, no, you're the world champion. When you worked with the world champion, did you put him over clean? And Kevin said, yes. He goes, well, you're the world champion. That piece of shit will put you over clean. And Kevin said, no, Vince wants something hot so we can come back. Very much espousing the position of the company and professional. And Shawn just kept hammering him. Finally, Carl came walking in. And honestly, as I tell you the story, you'll think I'm making it up. Shawn goes to walk out, and as he walks by, he goes, hey, Carl, how you doing, buddy? Turns and walks past him. And now Carl's blind in one eye. So he walks behind him, and he's standing literally right behind, I don't know if I can do this with mic on, but he's standing right behind Carl like this.
So
and
he
Carl
can't see him.
And he's talking to Kevin Nash, and he's going, so what do you want to do tonight, Kevin? And Kevin's going, well, and Shawn's right behind his head going, Kevin, you can see, I'm watching this right in front of me, and I can see Kevin's and he keeps going, and finally he said, well, I'm just thinking maybe the jackknife, 1, 2, 3, and Carl's going, no, we can't come back with that, and he's very drawn out, but every person espousing their position properly, except Shawn, who's not even involved in the match, standing behind him like something you see in middle school. And I remember sitting there thinking, am I in 7th grade again? And this goes on. And then after Carl said, we have to call Vince because that won't work, we can't come back. Now you got to remember, this guy just busted his ass to get a town up that's down, up 60,000. That's a significant jump in the house. And Shawn, who's done nothing but show up at the building to work, is just creating a ruckus where there's not one to be necessary. And goes over to the next dressing room. Again, remember I told you earlier about the guys pulling everybody apart. Shawn, I've seen in action, if you want to call it in action, the night that that he put Marty through the window after they split up the Rockers. He had been lying to Marty, and so Marty came in. Marty's a tough guy. He comes in ready to go after Shawn, and he comes in. He goes, "You son of a bitch!" And as he walks, rushes across the room toward him, Shawn literally covered up and fell into the fetal position, Like, did you ever see that there's that one land that has narcolepsy, and like when something scares it, just boom, it plops over? Well, that was Shawn. He just sort of plopped over and rolled up in a ball. And as Marty started kicking him, perfect, and I laughed, and we just sort of pulled him off. It was so embarrassing to watch. Well, Shawn back in Montreal with the thing with Carl goes into the other dressing room and says, hey, excuse me, everybody, if I can have your attention, please. Carl Oulet here is too much of a superstar, too much of a prima donna to do a job for the champion. So, well, Carl at that point goes, hey, what the, I didn't say that, you know, and he's going, no, let me finish, Carl. He's too big of a prima donna to put Kevin Nash, our champion, over. And well, at that point, Carl's a tough kid, said, fuck it. And everybody pulls him apart and everything. And we get back to the hotel that night, the Days Inn at Montreal. And it was one of those hotels where as you walked in from the front desk, there were me and Justin Credible were traveling with Tammy and Chris. Justin and I were in the very first room, PJ at that point. And as we're walking into the room, the Kliq walks in behind us and taps me on the shoulder and said, hey, we're in room whatever, we're getting pizza and beer, come on down, we want to talk to you. So I go down to the room, and as I walk in, they're talking about this thing with Carl, you know, and quite frankly, what Carl did was exactly what he should have done. That wasn't what Vince wanted. It wasn't what was going to be good for the house. There was one person stirring that pile of shit, Shawn Michaels. And I guess that's why I find God now, you know, makes him feel a bit less guilty. I always, Shawn, whenever the storm cloud comes overhead, do you get a little nervous? The lightning bolt's going to come out at you. But they get back into the room, and you know, Shawn's really just ramping it up. You know, we should get you, motherfucker, blah blah blah. And Shawn goes, I know. Let's call Vince and have him fire him. And as Kevin went to pick the phone up, I forget which one it was, but it was either Shawn or Ray's or whatever. I said, no, hold on a second. They put the phone back down. I said, let's think about this. We can do better. And they're like sort of like pushing it back and forth, and finally go, I know, I got it. Let's have Vince McMahon starve him for 2 years. And I remember watching it. It was like I was watching somebody be verbally raped. You know, like here's a guy who's done absolutely nothing wrong, has done absolutely everything to help the company, and here are the guys that get picked up, fly first class, they get picked up by limousines, as the rest of the grunts, us grunts, are out there driving ourselves all over the creation, sitting in the middle seats in the back of the plane, telling each other that they should get Vince to starve this guy. That's only trying to feed his family like anybody else is. And that when I saw that kind of thing, it was what told me, like I just wanted to get out of there and go take a shower. Yeah. I felt dirty watching it.
Michaels is 0 for life on any kind of fucking real fight. The Harris boys, I think it was Ron watched the door and Don watched the door and Ron grabbed him by the neck and held him up to his feet. We're going wee in the garden on their last day. And the Marine beat him up, or the 9 Marines or 1 Marine, depending on the story. Actually, Davey Boy Smith was with him, but they had a 2-door rental car. And where the seat flips up, you know, when you get in the back seat, Davey, as big as he was in the back seat with the seat on him, and he couldn't get out to save Shawn's fucking little rabbit ass.
Was Shawn difficult to work with at the time?
Shawn was easy to work with.
No, I mean, when you only weigh $1.50, it's easy to work with.
Right. Shawn was fine in the ring.
As far as politically, I mean.
Well, politically, he's got his own clique, and politically, I believe that if I've ever seen anybody, including Stone Cold, have Vince more wrapped or in the palm of his hand, it's Shawn Michaels. I don't know if it's a sexual deal they got going on, because I've heard this about both of them. I don't know what it is. But that Shawn Michaels got away with more crap than I've seen from anybody.
Just the way
Matter of fact,
Vince
when they
looks.
got the hair fight pulling match between him and Bret Hart, and believe me, if everybody would have broken up, Bret Hart would have.
You would have killed Shawn.
But the thing is, they're both pulling hair, and there's Pat Patterson going, Block, hell. I'm going, Pat, I don't break up fights. I said, I don't want anybody breaking up mine either. And so, right there was the beginning of the end for Bret Hart. That's because that tells me something. To me, as a heterosexual man, tells me maybe there's something going on with these two, where after 17 years of Bret Hart, who stayed there, worked there every day, worked his ass out, and didn't get time off with phony injuries like Shawn Michaels. I could never understand it. I said, there's something going on here. I used to call it a ball and cock contract. You know, you might want to print that, you might, I don't know.
when I asked for my release, they were surprised, and they asked me why, and I said, you know, quite frankly, I just think, and I'm getting around to answering your question here,
Okay.
is that Vader just can't be Vader in the WWF. I said, quite frankly, you know, my style that got me over initially in Europe, and my style that got me over in Japan, and the style that got me over in WCW with Sting and in all those matches, I don't believe I'm allowed to be me. And I'm not going to name a name here. He'll know who he is, you know, if he hears this. And but it was a major star with the World Wrestling Federation, and we went out there, and we were in Nassau, and I mean, it was sold out, and we went 15, 18 minutes. I mean, tore it down. Vince came up and said, "What a match! Jesus Christ, man, you're really moving, you know." And that superstar walked in and said, "Listen, you know, you may be king shit wherever you've been before, but this is WWF, and I've been here for X amount of years, and if you're ever that stiff with me in the ring again, I'll put a dime in this penny, I'll put a dime in the jukebox, and you'll be gone the next day." And
wow,
that happened on more than one occasion.
With the same guy?
No, with then another individual, because they just simply weren't going to take my style.
Yeah.
And I'm not pointing a finger at Vince. I'm not pointing a finger at Jim Ross. I'm just saying that, Vader's style didn't blend in. And so for the last 3 years, I'm allowed to. When I went over there with Stan and Johnny Ace and Kobashi,
that's a great match too.
Probably the best match I've had since I've been at WWF. Certainly that match was better than any match I've had at the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah.
Because I felt I had the opportunity to be me.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about hitting someone in the face, Ken. I'm talking about being me and letting my style flow rather than having to hold back. And
but what happened was, and I didn't know Hunter. You know, all I knew was I was coming back as Ultimate Warrior, and the guys that were on top, that Vince was using on top, were the B team players when Ultimate Warrior was there. Right. And I wasn't going to come in. Look, there could have been a lot of adjustments that could have been made over time, and there were even for the 4 months that I was there with Ultimate Warrior. But to come back after 3 years, I was going to come back and make an impression. And it wasn't about that I had a malicious plan to disparage anything that Hunter Hearst Helmsley had done in his career up to that point, or to say he's not any kind of talent or anything like that. It was just come back. It wasn't harmful. You know, people talk about things are harmful, you know, doing the job and this and that. They are to some degree in the beginning, but they're not as much today. You can fix things like that. And I told him what I wanted to do, that I was going to come and make my entrance. You give me your finish. I'm going to kick out of it, and then I'm going to give you a press slam. We're going to go home. And he said, okay. And then he went and got Jerry Briscoe. Came in the locker room. We went in the shower, and he proceeded to have Jerry Briscoe try to tell me that he had all these ideas. And I listened to Jerry for about 5 seconds, and I looked right at Hunter. And I said, if you ever have anything that you need to discuss with me, you need to come to discuss it with me, face-to-face, man-to-man. We're done. And that was it.
Did he ever apologize?
And he didn't. No, and he didn't need to. You know, he didn't need to, per se, to apologize to me. I can understand how he would have took it, but I'm sure today, and in some ways, I could probably take a little credit for what he's done in his career. Because I know if somebody had done that to me, what I would have done, I would have said to myself, we'll see.
Right.
And look what he's done in the business.
He's
you know
one
what
of
I
the
mean?
most powerful people in the company.
So it's kind of funny. I've thought that over the years. I thought, you know what? I didn't mean to do that. But he did. And I can understand how he would have took it that way. But if he wants to tell the story a different way, then he's the puny little bastard on the inside that he was back then. Right. You know, he's not the guy that's built a really credible career in the business and seems to love the business. He's still the puny little shithead that he was in 1996, and I'd tell him to his face again.
Right. How would the company change from the last time you were there?
It hadn't really. I mean, there was the clique going on between Nash and Hall and those guys are scumbags. I mean, they're just, you know, the kind of ribs and stuff that they would play and tearing people's stuff up, and they always got ulterior motives to destroy people instead of concentrating on what they have to offer and what they can do. They got to play both sides and try to, you know, damage other people's abilities from the backside.
I wanted to talk to you about some of the names that were on top at that point. We already discussed Hunter. Shawn Michaels, what did you think about? You tag teamed with him a couple of times. What did you think of Shawn as a performer?
Definitely talented and skilled. I mean, you know, incredibly talented. He had always had good confidence about his own abilities in the ring and stuff. Not a lot of people's taste, you know. But, I mean, you can't fault the guy for the talent that he had to be able to do things he did in the ring.
Memories of the Kliq around this period of time?
I hated them.
Why is that?
Just because of the way they acted. They run everything. You know, guys didn't have a chance with them around. You know, to this day, Scott Hall, I'd like to smack him right across his face. You know.
A lot of people, you know, talk about that on our interviews. Did they play a lot of politics with your career at all?
I have no idea. That's the thing, you don't know what they did. You have no earthly idea what they did. You know. And but I do remember Kevin coming up to me and saying, you know, that they had talked to Vince about me and about doing something with me and stuff like that. So, you know. But other than that, you know, I think you just don't know because you don't know, because Vince was like so tight with those guys, so you don't know what went on behind closed doors.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Was Shawn hard to deal with around this period of time? Shawn Michaels, was he hard to get along with?
Yeah. You didn't know he was messed up so bad he couldn't remember whether he didn't know whether he was coming or going.
Right.
You know. And it's funny because me and Shawn have talked about it, you know, here in the past, and he was like, you know, he goes, I know you hated me. I said, I did, you know, but, you know, which was understandable, and he understands that because he was so strung out on, you know, this, that, and the other, but, I mean, to me right now, Shawn is just an absolute wonderful guy. I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, he really is. I talk to him on the phone and stuff like that, and he's a good man.
It was just the nature of the business around the period of time, I guess.
Yeah.
What are your memories of the very first WrestleMania that you were involved in?
WrestleMania 10. We were supposed to have a match. I was supposed to be in a Battle Royal. I think that's what it was, Battle Royal. And Shawn and Scott Hall took too long in their match.
That was a ladder match, right?
Ladder match. And they kept telling them to go home, go home. They wouldn't go home, and they went like 20 minutes over. It was like 15 or 20 minutes over. And then, so then everybody that was supposed to be in that Royal Rumble, or that Battle Royal,
kiboshed it.
Yep, they put a squash on it, so.
Whose idea was it to team you up with the Kid?
Their idea.
Were you for that idea, or were you for that idea or against it? No.
I was for it because Kid was over.
Right.
And all that was going to do was help me.
Right.
You know. So.
What are your thoughts of Shawn?
I like him. I had no problems with him at all. He was always real nice to me.
Were you closer at all with the Kliq at all now that you're teaming with Shawn? At that point.
No different. You know, they all treated me. You know.
Right.
You know, they seemed to like me, you know. I think they did. I mean, I know they like me now.
Right.
But I can give two shits about Scott Hall.
I don't, I've gotten over the point of hating them. I'm beyond that now. I mean, it was never really a hate. It was more of a, to me, being a man is if I say, hey, I think you suck dick, there's no reason for me to say that behind closed doors. And when you ask me or confront me about it, I say, no, I didn't say that. No, what are you talking about? And I've said a lot of things on the record here in these internet conventions and on the microphone and shoot interviews and in the sheets and whatever else. And I've never hid from any of that. I mean, whenever I met any of those guys or heard that somebody was talking to them, I said, make sure you tell them I said hello. I mean, it wasn't not the kind of thing that if any of them would walk in here right now, they're like, oh, hey guys, how you doing? It was just all big work, On the other hand, those guys all sit there like Scott Hall will sit there and tell you, like the night in Switzerland, I hear him bitching to the referee because I changed the matchup on him. He didn't know how to work along with the match. And I walked into the room, and this is, what the hell, some of the bitches that did the same match for 2 weeks in a row and all this kind of shit. I was bored out of my skull. Changed the matchup on him. He bitches to the referee, when I walk into the room, he's like, hey, I said, there's a problem with the match, Scott? Is there something you couldn't follow along with? No, everything was okay. Well, now, wait a second. If I was an asshole before I walked in the room, I must still be an asshole now. Either that or you're an asshole for not being man enough to stand up for your convictions. And I think that none of those guys have it. None. They're all creatures of the business. Scott Hall once said to me, you can make friends in this business, you can make money. Now, here's a guy who, whenever he first came to WCW, Johnny Gates and I were partners, had no money. We let him stay in our room. We fed him. We paid all his bills for him. So I guess, he was right. He didn't make friends. He made money in the business. But, here's a guy who's going to pop a handful of pills every damn night or, take whatever drug he can get his hands on because he's so miserable with his life. Shawn Michaels has had his stomach pumped how many times because he's obviously running from something. That millions of dollars he's got in the bank isn't making him very happy. I'm content with my payoff here at ECW. I sleep very well at night, and that's about it.
What were your impressions of the Kliq, the infamous Kliq, when you came to Titan? Did they, I guess, rule the WWF with an iron fist, as they say?
Oh, yeah. At that time, yes, they did.
Yeah.
Unquestionably. There was no second man in charge. There was no assistant booker. There was them.
Yeah.
They ran the thing. I don't care what anybody says they did.
Really?
It was very obvious.
Wow. That's you said before. You said for some reason they put the word out to Vince.
That's what I've heard.
Did they were they two-faced about it? Where did they ever have a problem with you? Where they came up to you personally and ever said, "Hey, I'll." No.
That's not how this business works.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say anything to you directly anyways. It's always going to be, one thing here and then another thing there.
Yeah. You think it was maybe guys like Kid and Michaels maybe feel threatened to their spot since you did an aerial style that was...
I don't know. I think because I came from, in their opinion, I came from nothing, from nowhere. So who was I to come in with the attitude that I came in with? And being all cocky and arrogant when I don't think I am, but people say I come across that way. Who was I to come across like that? Yeah. So let's teach this guy a lesson, show him that he ain't what he thinks he is. He ain't all that in a big bag of chips. We're going to show him, and we're going to start it out.
How was the locker room morale up there at the time?
Horrible.
Yeah. Was it because?
It was because of that. Because all the guys felt like they had nowhere to turn. Who could they talk to? What could they say? Where could it go? I mean, it was what they were stuck.
Right.
As far as their spots were concerned, as far as getting any headway, because you and I are competing. You're a fellow employee, but yet you're also in charge of me.
Right.
You're over me, and I want your spot. Well, am I going to go to you and say, hey, I think I should be utilized a little better here. What do you think?
Yeah.
So I can take your spot. This ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So.
Sounds similar to what happened with Shane when he was there. I mean, at least according to what he told us during the shoot interview, just as far as, if they don't like it, you're not going anywhere.
If you're figured, I've heard this from several people. If you're figured in up there, you're figured in for life. I mean, you can look at Barry Windham. I mean, look at Jim Neidhart, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, on and on and on. The list goes on and on, guys. If you're figured in, you're figured in. If you're not, you're not. And no matter what you do, and that really was what became so bad for me up there was that, no matter what I did, no matter how much I changed my appearance, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how cooperative I was, because believe me, I'm very easy to get along with. As long as business is done with me, I'm more than willing to do business with you.
Right.
You know, and no matter how willing you are to work, no matter how willing you are to do what they ask, no matter how you conduct yourself outside the ring and present a good image for the WWF, no matter how much you work out, you try and make your appearance better, no matter how much you change your facial hair, your regular hair, no matter how many times Vince McMahon personally came up and said, "Hey, good match, thank you very much, I've gotten great reports." No matter whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No matter what you did, it wasn't going to change anything. You were going to be Johnny Job Boy for the rest of your goddamn life, and that was going to be it. That was what they saw you as, and it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen.
What led to you finally coming back to Titan?
Well, just independence was so terrible. I wasn't working. I did a couple shots with Paul. The company was weak back then, and it wasn't nothing against Paul. He just, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It wasn't the level that I was used to, And, going back to Titan was just another way to get exposure and get a longer run, a longer career. And, and I did it well. And pulled it off. Pulled it off.
Were there any bitter feelings still with you and Vince when you came back?
Not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. In fact, Vince gave me a hell of a push.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah.
And even though they abused me in the end, but I think that was the influence of the Kliq trying to bury me, because there was some problems with my friend Chris Candido and some rumors that I didn't like and some things. See, I'm old school, and these guys forgot what old school was all about. And there's certain things you do and you don't do, and they were doing the things that you shouldn't do. And in the day, with the old timers around, if you did that shit, every wrestler would be on your case.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they were scared of these guys, and I was the only one that stepped up to the plate and said, fuck all you guys, man. It's not right. It's wrong. And they went to Vince and just said, look, this guy's, he's got a bad attitude. It's bad for morale. Let's abuse him. And I didn't let him abuse me as much as they wanted to, and I just left.
All right.
Was Hunter always the first choice, since he was scheduled to win in '96?
I was about to say he was the first choice for '96. He was only a year late.
Well, I was going to say, with the curtain call incident, precluded that from happening. So
yeah, I think because, and once again, just in case everybody doesn't know, in 1996 they thought Hunter Hearst Helmsley is the hot young rookie we've got. We want to elevate him. The King of the Ring winner usually gets elevated. There was that Mabel incident, but so he's going to win in '96 when, of course, and the story's been told many times, when Hall and Nash were leaving in April of '96, and they ran around with Helmsley and Michaels, and they thought that they were just, oh golly, going to rule the wrestling business, which they actually pretty much ended up doing. So they're actually the smart ones, even though they're assholes, and the fucking people that let them do it are the goddamn goofs. But anyway, they went out and had a curtain call after they finished their respective matches, which was this card. Then they all go out and hug, baby faces and heels. Fans, there's no internet. People don't know they're leaving. They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They just felt that they needed to hug. And Jerry Briscoe was hot and wanted to stretch people, and I was throwing my fucking shit around trying to find Vince's limo so we could get the fuck out of there, because I was trapped with them, of course, because I came in the limo, so I had to fucking stay there till the bitter end. And it was just bullshit. They took a shit, whether you like Vince McMahon or not. Madison Square Garden was his building at the time. It was his father's building. He viewed that as his house. And they went out and took a shit on the business in Vince's fucking dining room, right on his table. And he couldn't do anything to Diesel or Razor because that was their last night. And he couldn't do anything to Michaels because he was dumb enough to let a fucking immature jack off like that have his goddamn belt, say he's going to punish the world champion, who has already shown a predilection for fucking losing his smile and going home. So Hunter Hearst Helmsley got spanked. He didn't win the King of the Ring. It cost him about $150,000 or $200,000 that year. He's probably since made it back. And he was forced to go, or told to, not forced to, nobody held a gun to his head. He was told to go around to all the boys and apologize for what he did. And he should have. And everybody thinks, oh, it's goddamn, as quaint as it seems to look back now. No, he took a shit on the fucking business. He exposed the fucking business. Vince McMahon had done it, but it was his fucking business. There was no reason for the boys, for their own self-serving fucking motivation, to go out there and do that. There was no storyline purpose to it. It didn't sell any tickets, didn't do anything for business, did something for their egos.
Well,
anyway, Helmsley goes around to every single member of the crew and apologizes. He realizes what he did was wrong, and he shouldn't have done it. And I even told him, I said, just suffer under it because the heat will pass. You're still young, you're still talented, but you did the wrong thing. At least you apologize, and now, just mind your own business, and everybody will forget about it, and blah, blah, blah. And, of course, about a year and a half later, with Vince Russo, who doesn't respect the business any more than they did, running fucking things, then they show the home video clip on Raw of the incident and make a story out of it, and Helmsley reveals all along, which I figured, that he wasn't genuine when he was apologizing. He just did it because he was told to, and it was political, and he really knew that he was doing something to revolutionize the business. And then Russo brought that out all the more. Have you noticed people who revolutionize the business tend to revolutionize businesses that don't need revolutionizing that bad? And anyway.
Nash has claimed, and I heard it, that Vince okayed the curtain call. Do you believe this?
We all saw it. They walked right past Vince, and he was like, with the look on his face, why would he work Jim Ross? Why would he work Jerry Briscoe? Why would he work Bruce Pritchard? If he was going to work me, why would he work me? I was on his creative team. Why would he have worked any of those people before we were doing shoot promos? I think probably they've probably said something half-ass to Vince, and yeah, sure, pal, whatever, and okay, now it's okayed, or whatever, if that. He didn't know what was happening, and they didn't do anything about it for a year and a half, except spank with two guys that are leaving, and he spanked one of them that was staying. So why would he have known about it ahead of time?